Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm out here this morning. I've got two Harley Davidson Fat Boys from the 1990s, 1999, the last of the EVO Harley Davidsons, the 1997 Fat Boy, also EVO engine, both 80 cubic inches. And I kind of want to do a comparison because this one's basically stock and this one I've customized. If you watch my videos that I've made previously, and I'll put the links below for you, you can see all the changes I made on this bike. And it's kind of nice to compare it to a stock bike that really hasn't had anything done to it. My in-laws bought this 1997 Harley Davidson brand new from the dealership in 1997. So they're the original owners of the motorcycle. And back then you had to wait for a motorcycle. You had to wait months to get a motorcycle. They special ordered it. They ordered a different color, and that color was discontinued. They wound up having to take this color. The demand trumped the supply in the 1990s. So this is their bike. It has 20,000 miles on it. I probably put half of those miles on it. Whenever Erin and I would visit her parents, we would jump on this and go for a ride somewhere. So I rode it quite a bit when I was in Florida, and put a lot of miles on it. But it's a stock bike. There's really been nothing done to it. I put a cam in it a couple of years ago, rejetted the carburetor, and her dad put Screaming Eagle exhaust tips on it. But other than that, the engine is stock. It hasn't been lowered. It's got the stock seat, stock handlebars, still has the crash bar on it. We put LED lights on it for them one Christmas as a Christmas gift, just so they could be seen better when they were out riding. But other than that, it's a stock bike, and this is kind of the way they came, and it's pretty hard to find Harley Davidsons from the 1990s that weren't customized. I mean, that was like when, especially in the late 90s, that's when the custom scene really blew up, and not many of these things escaped the hands of a customizer, you know, but this one did, and it's a really great example. These are still the original tires on it. I mean, you know, it's been serviced, but other than that, it really hasn't had much done to it, and it's a really good example of how they left Milwaukee in 1997. And you're probably familiar with my 1999 Fat Boy. I did a couple of videos on this earlier this year. Again, I'll put the link below. You can go back and take a look at those videos if you haven't seen them. But this was a stock bike when I got it too. It didn't have very much done to it, and I made a bunch of changes to it. Let me go over them with you. The first thing I did that's noticeable is I lowered the front and rear suspension, and that makes a huge difference. And I'll show you a side-by-side comparison of the two motorcycles where you can really see the difference in the ride height. But lowering these motorcycles is the one thing that you can do that changes the appearance of them right away. I took the stock seat off of the motorcycle and put a custom Lapera seat on it. I have a lick and stick P pad for my wife to put on the back if she ever wants to go ride, and she's not really into motorcycles. She doesn't like to ride, so I don't know if she'll ever use it, and I put pegs on it for her, but I ride it with just a solo seat because it's something I'm riding all the time, and she hardly ever gets on it, so there's no need to have a big seat back there just to get in the way of things. I changed the handlebars. I put a 1930s Springer Speedster style bar on this. I really love it. It changes the height of the bike. It really changes the lines of the bike and gives it better lines and a better aesthetic, and it's very comfortable. I grew up riding knuckleheads and panheads and flatheads because we couldn't afford anything like this, and those bikes all had Speedster Springer bars on them, and that's just what I learned to ride on and what I really love to this day, and I just love that vintage style. I changed the paint on this. This is a 1997 paint scheme, the black and silver, but I really loved it. It was in really great shape, and I just kind of liked it. It was a burgundy color. If you go back and watch my videos, you'll see, you know, I made the right choice in choosing these colors. I put the Boyd Coddington billet aluminum swing arm on here. This is something that, again, if you go back and watch my other videos, is a part from the 1990s, and I just absolutely love. It's such a beautiful piece. To me, it's one of the most beautiful custom aftermarket parts ever made for a Harley Davidson, and I just love the way it looks, and it's hard to find them. And when I found another one, I grabbed it and put it on this bike because I had one on my 1995 Bad Boy. And when I sold that bike, it was very hard to let go, and the hardest thing to let go about it was the swing arm, because I didn't think I'd ever see another one. So the Boyd swing arm's on there. When I did the Boyd swing arm, I put a Performance Machine rear brake on it. There's a nice detail of the polished billet aluminum Boyd Coddington swing arm with the Performance Machine caliper. You really don't want to run a custom swing arm like this with the stock cast black aluminum brake, so I put the billet aluminum Performance Machine 4-piston caliper on it. And this afternoon I'm going to put a 4-piston billet aluminum PM caliper on the front just so it has a matching set of calipers, and of course they work better. Just from the front, you can see the difference in the ride height between the two bikes. The seat height is a real big difference. Take a look at how that rear rim sits relative to the rear fender on a bike with a stock ride height versus how it sits on my 99 with the lowering kit. It really makes a huge difference. Here you can see the handlebar bend. This is a stock Fat Boy handlebar bend versus the Speedster Springer style bend that I have. You can see the bend of that handlebar versus the bend of the Fat Boy bar. In the factory seat, you know, it's not really more comfortable than the Lepera seat. The Lepera seat actually has a lot more curve to it, so it's actually more comfortable with less cushion. And the factory seat kind of dominates the middle of the motorcycle. The Lepera seat has that nice dip in it that gives you good lumbar support, and it's small, and it just really has that nice custom fit for a mass-produced seat. I think the Lepera bare bones is always the way to go. The original's got the factory crash bars. I took them off of my Fat Boy. There's the original isolated rubber footboards. If you remember from my video, I'd scored these bronze Indy and Larry footboards that I just had to have. I had to make the bases for them, but these were just such cool bronze footboards, and I bought them before I had this Fat Boy, but they're just something that I needed to put on the bike. And the color of the footboards really goes with the colors in the paint scheme and the anniversary derby cover that I put on this. There's a Choppers Inc. double barrel shotgun inspection cover that we made years and years ago. This one has the Tombstone tail light with the vertical tag. And on my 99, I left a stock tail light, but I got the lay down plate, and it really just changes the lines of the back of the bike. I always felt that vertical tag was just such an eyesore sticking up back there. See, the one thing we did on the 97 was put the LED lights in. It just makes you a lot more visible to other drivers on the road. You know, you need that these days. I did the same thing on my 99. I put modern LED lighting in it. I put LED bulbs in the turn signals and in the tail light. A lot brighter at night. You can't see it during the day, but it makes a huge difference at night. A few of the modifications I made to the 99 that you can see from the right side is a custom stainless steel exhaust pipe, the Carl Speed Shop carburetor. Now, when I put the cam in the 97, I had to rejet the carburetor. I left the stock Key and CV carburetor on it. You have to put a higher flow air filter on it, so I put a performance filter in it behind the stock cover, so it looks stock, but it actually has a high flow filter to allow the engine to breathe. I put the Choppers Inc. points cover on it. I put Wimmer Machine external crankcase breathers on it. Here's where you can really see the difference in the ride height and the stance of the motorcycles. I mean, look at the tank. They're both sitting on the kickstands level, where you can see the seat is several inches lower on the 99. You can see where the seat is several inches lower on the 99. The fender's lower. Obviously the front fender rides at the same height because the tire's the same height off the ground. But you see the height in the gas tanks, and definitely the height in the handlebars. The handlebars is one of the things that makes a huge difference between these two. It doesn't take a whole lot to customize this Harley-Davidson Softail. We'll walk around, really show you the difference between these two motorcycles in ride height and just overall stance and lines in general. I mean, Harley-Davidson didn't get it bad. I just come along 25 years later and make it better. So it's just above freezing right now. I rode the 99 into work this morning. It was actually starting to snow when I was riding it in. I think it was about 33 degrees. It's actually getting colder as the sun came up this morning here in Tennessee. But I wanted to make this video for a few reasons. One, this motorcycle is 25 years old this month. It was late production year, probably a special order. I remember from the late 1990s when the twin cam was announced and introduced, there's a lot of excitement around it. There's also a lot of apprehension because there's 88 cubic inches, which made people excited it was going to make more horsepower. But there was also apprehension because the first model year of anything usually doesn't do very well. It usually has a lot of kinks that need to be worked out. So the Harley Davidson buyer, a lot of people still wanted the EVO. They wanted the carburetor. They wanted to be able to tune the motorcycle. They were scared of the fuel injection and the ECM and all the things that came along with the twin cam. Just like when the EVO came out, the shovel head riders didn't want the EVO. And when the shovel head came out, the panhead riders didn't want the shovel head. They didn't trust it because it was new to them. So, time has proven that Harley Davidson has continually made great strides. I mean, the Harley Davidson EVO is so much better than a shovel head in so many ways. I mean, the horsepower, the ability to add horsepower to it really affordably. The braking is so much better. The clutch is better. The electrical system is better. The charging system, I mean, it's just a much better motorcycle. The 5-speed gearbox was such a step above the 4-speed gearbox. The moves that Harley Davidson made in the late 80s with the EVO was really a great leap forward. Now, I prefer the Harley Davidson EVO over the twin cam for a bunch of reasons. The 1990s Softail models, all of them in general, still have a tubular frame that has the original DNA of the Harley Davidson frame all the way back to the 1920s and 30s. Once the twin cam came along, it had a stamped steel frame up under the tank. The twin cam had the one-piece Fat Bob tank versus the two-piece Fat Bob tanks that retain original DNA that are still on these two Softails. So the twin cam is a lot harder to customize. The lines are a little different. You set a twin cam next to an EVO, the lines are just a little bit off. They started putting a wider rear tire on the Fat Boys, which I think was a big no-no. The Fat Boy is made to look like a 1949 Harley Davidson with disc wheel covers. I had a 1948 flathead that I rode forever that had disc wheel covers on it called Plain Jane. And these wheels were made to mimic that look. Harley Davidson basically got it right with the Fat Boy. I mean, it definitely looks like a bike from the 50s. If I put a sprung solo seat on this and took the turn signals off of it, it would be really hard to tell from a 1950s motorcycle if it was going down the highway. I hope you enjoyed the comparison between a stock bike and a custom bike. You can see as you watch my videos, it doesn't take a lot to really change the looks of a motorcycle, and to take a motorcycle from something that we just walk right by to something to stop and say, wow, that's a really beautiful motorcycle. I think the 97 is beautiful in its own way, but the things I did to this bike is definitely the way I like to ride them. The Harley Davidson EVO Softail, great motorcycle to customize. I'll be doing more of them. If you haven't seen the videos on my 1995 Bad Boy I did a couple years ago, go back and take a look at those. I'll put those links below as well. So happy birthday, baby. We're going for a cold ride today.